My parents said I was too broke to join the family vacation. I quietly agreed, but when they came back and found their house empty, they called me screaming. When my parents started planning the family vacation, I didn't think much of it. We weren't exactly the kind of family that did big, elaborate trips, but my mom had been talking for weeks about how much we all needed a break. My dad nodded along, throwing out ideas about resorts and excursions. My sister, Megan, was already looking up Instagram-worthy spots. I assumed I was included in the plans. Why wouldn't I be? I was their son, after all. But as the details started coming together, something felt off. At first, it was small things. They would talk about flight options at dinner, but never asked me which one I preferred. My mom would sigh about how expensive everything was, then shoot me a look, as if I was the cause of their financial woes. And then there was Megan. She started dropping little comments like, "I can't wait for our trip," instead of "our family trip." Still, I brushed it off. Maybe I was overthinking it. Maybe they were just waiting for the right moment to officially invite me. That moment never came. One night, about 2 weeks before the departure, I was sitting at the kitchen table when my dad finally said it outright. "Look, we need to talk about the vacation." I nodded, waiting for him to ask me about my schedule. Instead, he shifted uncomfortably and said, "We crunched the numbers, and we just can't afford to cover you this time." My stomach twisted. "Cover me?" I repeated. "I wasn't expecting you to pay for me." He sighed, as if I was the one making this difficult. "Even if you paid your own way, the trip is already planned, and there just isn't room in the budget for extra accommodations. Flights are expensive. The rental is only big enough for the three of us." I glanced at my mom, waiting for her to step in, to say something to soften the blow. But she just looked at her plate. "I could book my own flight," I said carefully. "I don't need a fancy hotel. I'll sleep on the couch if I have to." Megan laughed under her breath, and I turned to her, my face heating. "What's so funny?" "Oh, come on," she said, twirling her fork in her pasta. "You're barely scraping by as it is. How are you going to afford a trip like this?" I clenched my fists under the table. "We just think it would be better if you sat this one out," my dad said, his voice final. "Next time, okay?" "Next time." I nodded slowly, my jaw tight. "Yeah," I said, forcing a small smile. "Next time." I didn't argue. I didn't beg. I didn't ask why they never even considered me. Instead, I sat through dinner, pretending everything was fine. But as I lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling, something inside me shifted. They thought I was too broke to join them. Fine. But if I was too broke for a vacation, then I sure as hell couldn't afford to keep furnishing their house for free. The morning after our conversation, my parents acted like nothing had happened. My mom hummed while making coffee, my dad read the newspaper like he always did, and Megan was glued to her phone, probably bragging about the upcoming trip to her friends. I sat at the table, sipping my own coffee, quietly watching them. They had no idea what I was planning. It started as a petty thought, a way to get back at them. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized how much of my life was tangled up in their house. See, when I moved back home a year ago after a rough patch, they made it sound like I was a burden. They never said it outright, but the little comments, the sighs, the passive-aggressive remarks about grown adults pulling their weight made it clear. But the thing was, I had been pulling my weight. More than that. Most of the furniture in the house. Mine. The big sectional in the living room? I bought it when my parents' old couch was falling apart. The dining table? Mine too. The TV, the kitchen appliances, half the dishes in the cabinets. I had paid for all of it. Not to mention the fact that my name was still on the lease. They loved to act like I was some freeloader, but without me, they'd be sitting on folding chairs and eating off paper plates. And now, they were leaving me behind like I was nothing? Fine. I calmly finished my coffee, then pulled out my phone. I had work to do. By the time they came back, their house would be a lot emptier. I started small. The night after they went to bed, I grabbed a few things, my air fryer, my blender, a couple of expensive kitchen knives I had bought when theirs started going dull. They wouldn't notice these things missing right away, but they'd feel it when they tried to make breakfast in the morning. Then I moved on to the bigger stuff. Since my name was still on the lease, I had every right to be there. More importantly, I had every right to take what was mine. So, over the next few days, I systematically packed up everything I had paid for. The sectional? Gone. I hired a guy with a truck to help move it to a storage unit. The TV? Unplugged and wrapped up neatly in a blanket before I carried it out. The dining table and chairs? Dismantled and taken piece by piece. By the third day, I had cleared out most of the living room and kitchen. The house was starting to look bare, but I wasn't done yet. I walked into Megan's room and spotted the vanity mirror she used for her makeup. Funny, she always acted like I was beneath her, but guess who had bought that mirror for her birthday last year? Me. I took it. In my parents' room, I grabbed the expensive comforter set I had gifted them for Christmas. The one my mom had gushed over, saying she loved how soft it was. Yeah, well, I loved the idea of going on a family vacation. And yet here we were. By the time their departure day arrived, I was nearly done. I waved them off at the airport with a smile. They had no idea what was waiting for them when they got back. With my parents and Megan officially on their way to their vacation, I had the house to myself. No more whispered conversations, no more passive-aggressive remarks, just silence. And work to do. I had already moved most of the furniture, but there were still smaller things to take care of. The expensive silverware set my mom liked to use for special occasions. Mine. The framed artwork in the hallway? I bought it. The coffee maker my dad used every morning but never once thanked me for? Well, he'd be waking up to nothing when he got back. The best part? They didn't even own the beds. When I first moved back, they had been using the same ancient mattresses they'd had since I was a kid. My mom kept complaining about back pain, so what did I do? I spent my own money I barely had, to buy them a brand new mattress set. So, naturally, I took them back. By the time I was done, the house looked hollow. Like a model home someone had abandoned halfway through staging. The living room was just an empty space, the kitchen cabinets held nothing but mismatched plates, and the bedrooms? Nothing but bed frames and bare floors. It was perfect. I took one last look around, feeling something I hadn't felt in years, satisfaction. Not guilt, not regret, just relief. I locked the door behind me and left. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't just reacting to what they did. I was taking control. Now, all I had to do was wait for the fireworks. The first few days after they left were peaceful. I went to work, slept in my own bed, one they could no longer claim, and enjoyed my new space. I wasn't worried. I had done everything legally. Every piece of furniture, every appliance, every little thing I took had receipts with my name on them. They just didn't realize how much of their life had been built on my back. 3 days passed. Then, the phone calls started. At first, it was just a couple of casual texts. Mom, hey, everything okay? Haven't heard from you. Megan, hope you're not too bored at home, lol. I ignored them. Let them enjoy their trip. Let them believe everything was fine. Then, on the day they were set to come back, I got one last text from my dad. Dad, we land at 6. Can you have dinner ready? I almost laughed. Instead of responding, I turned off my phone, grabbed some takeout, and waited. I imagined it perfectly, the key turning in the lock, the bags dropping at the door, the moment of confusion as they looked around the empty house. Maybe they'd call out for me, assuming I had moved things around for some reason. Maybe Megan would go into her room, expecting to sit down at her vanity, only to find nothing there. And then? The rage would set in. It happened just as I expected. At exactly 6:45 p.m., my phone, now turned back on, exploded with calls. First my mom. Then my dad. Then Megan. Over and over, one after the other. Then came the texts. Mom, where is everything? Dad, are you serious? Where is our stuff? Megan, you took my mirror? I leaned back in my chair, taking my time before responding. Me, oh, I thought I was too broke to contribute to the family. Figured I couldn't afford to furnish your house either. Silence. Then, after a few minutes, my phone rang again. I picked up. What did you do? My mother's voice screeched through the phone. I smiled. The real fun was just beginning. I held the phone away from my ear as my mother's voice rang through, shrill and furious. Do you have any idea what you've done? We just got home, and the house is empty. I waited a beat, then answered calmly. Yeah? Weird. Almost like I was never actually part of the household to begin with. What are you talking about? She snapped. I sighed, stretching out on my couch, the one that had once sat in their living room. Well, you said I was too broke to contribute, right? I just figured, if I couldn't afford a vacation, then I definitely couldn't afford to keep furnishing your house for free. Silence. For the first time since she called, she was at a loss for words. Then, in the background, I heard my dad growl. Put him on speaker. A moment later, his voice came through, tight with barely contained rage. This is theft. You have no right to do this. I laughed. Oh, I have every right, Dad. My name was on the lease, all of those things were bought with my money, and I even have the receipts to prove it. Want me to send you copies? You ungrateful little. I cut him off. Ungrateful? Oh, that's rich. Let's talk about gratitude. Let's talk about how, for the past year, I've paid for your furniture, your TV, your kitchen supplies, even your mattress, while you've treated me like an inconvenience. We let you live here. My mother shot back. I scoffed. You let me? You mean the same house where I paid rent? The same house where I covered half the groceries? The same house where I furnished nearly every room while you two acted like I was freeloading? Megan's voice chimed in, dripping with outrage. You took my mirror. I rolled my eyes. Yeah. The mirror I bought you as a gift. Feel free to replace it. Oh, wait, that might be tough without my money covering the bills. Dad had had enough. You bring everything back. Tonight. No. His voice dropped, now deadly serious. You think this is funny? You think you can just take everything and walk away? I smiled to myself. I don't think I can. I know I can. The line went dead. I exhaled, tossing my phone onto the couch. That went exactly how I thought it would. But I wasn't naive. I knew this wasn't over. My dad wasn't the type to let things go, and my mom? She would guilt-trip me into the ground if she thought it would work. And Megan? Oh, she'd throw a fit. Still, for the first time in years I felt free. No more being treated like a second-class family member, no more being the financial safety net they walked all over. I had taken back what was mine. Now I just had to see how far they were willing to go to try and take it back. I didn't have to wait long. The next morning, I woke up to a flurry of missed calls and texts. Mom, this is disgusting. We are your family. Dad, you have 24 hours to bring everything back or we take legal action. Megan, I cannot believe you. You are seriously the worst brother ever. Legal action? That made me laugh. I almost wanted to see them try. By noon, my phone rang again. This time, I picked up. This has gone far enough. My dad said immediately, his voice low and controlled, the way it always got when he was really mad. We've talked it over, and here's what's going to happen. I stayed silent, waiting. You are going to bring everything back tonight, or we will call the police and report you for theft. I had expected this. What I hadn't expected was how much amusement I'd feel hearing it. Theft? I repeated, pretending to be confused. Dad, you know that's not going to work, right? I don't care what you think. He snapped. If you don't return what you took, we will press charges. I sighed. Dad, let's break this down. 1. I have proof that everything I took was mine. Receipts, bank statements, even my name on the lease. You really want to go to court over this? Because I will counter with all of that. I let that sink in before continuing. 2. If you tried to lie to the police, that's called filing a false report. And you really don't want to do that. Silence. And 3. I added, if you think throwing legal threats at me is going to scare me into giving in, then you really don't know me at all. My dad was breathing hard through the phone now, but before he could say anything else, my mom jumped in. Sweetheart, she said, suddenly switching to her sickly sweet voice. Let's not fight. Let's just fix this, okay? We can talk about things, but taking everything was extreme, don't you think? I almost laughed. There it was, the guilt trip. Right on schedule. No, Mom. What's extreme is excluding me from a family vacation while expecting me to keep furnishing your house for free. She sighed dramatically, like I was being difficult on purpose. We thought you'd understand. We thought you'd be happy for us, not act like this. I let out a dry chuckle. Oh, I understand perfectly. You didn't think I'd actually stand up for myself. You're being so childish. Megan snapped back in the background. Like, grow up already. I exhaled. Alright, here's my offer. I'm done with this conversation. You can either accept that I took back what was mine, or you can keep throwing tantrums. Either way, I don't care. Dad finally lost it. You are out of this family. You hear me? If you don't bring everything back, you're done. I smiled. I thought I was already out when you left me behind. And then I hung up. After I hung up, I half expected them to show up at my door. My dad was the kind of guy who liked control, and I had just ripped it away from him. But the knock on my door never came. Instead, the silence stretched for hours. No more calls. No more texts. It was a relief, until I got one unexpected message. It was from my aunt, my mom's sister. Aunt Karen, hey, can we talk? I hesitated. I hadn't told anyone else in the family what happened, but clearly, my parents had started running their mouths. I called her, and she answered immediately. Sweetheart, what is going on? She demanded. I sighed. Let me guess. My parents told you I robbed them blind? She hesitated. They said you took everything from the house, yes. But something about the way they said it didn't sit right with me. I explained everything. How they had excluded me from the vacation, how they always treated me like an afterthought, how most of the furniture and appliances were actually mine. When I finished, she was silent for a long moment. Then she sighed. I knew they were selfish, but this? This is low, even for them. That surprised me. You're on my side? Of course I am, she said. You've been helping them for years, and they treated you like this? They don't deserve your kindness. For the first time in days, I felt a little lighter. At least someone saw my side of things. I appreciate that, I said. She exhaled. You're not alone in this. And trust me, this isn't over. Not by a long shot. And Karen wasn't kidding, this wasn't over. The next morning, I woke up to even more missed calls and texts, but this time, they weren't just from my parents and Megan. My uncle, my grandmother, even a couple of cousins had started weighing in. Clearly, my parents had launched a full-blown family smear campaign. Cousin Jake, dude, what's going on? Your mom is saying you stole everything from them? Grandma, honey, I don't understand. Why would you do this? Can't you all just talk it out? Uncle Mark, I don't know what happened, but your dad is livid. Maybe you should try making peace before things go too far. I groaned. They were really trying to make me the villain. I wasn't about to sit here and let them twist the truth, so I sent out a simple message in the family group chat. Since Mom and Dad are telling everyone their side of the story, let me share mine. I didn't steal anything. I took back everything that I had personally paid for over the years, furniture, appliances, even things I had gifted them. They excluded me from the family vacation because I was too broke. Yet they had no problem expecting me to keep furnishing their house for free. So I left them with exactly what they contributed, nothing. Then, for good measure, I attached photos of my receipts, proof that everything I took was mine. The chat exploded. Some family members were stunned. Others were furious, but not at me. And Karen chimed in, I knew it. You two should be ashamed of yourselves. Then, the best message came from my grandmother. Grandma, I raised you better than this. You owe him an apology. For the first time, my parents had no response. For the first time since this all started, my parents were silent. No texts, no calls, nothing. The family group chat had turned into a war zone. Half the relatives were still trying to stay out of it, but the other half? They were furious. Uncle Mark, so let me get this straight. You took his money, his furniture, his generosity, and then left him behind like an afterthought? Aunt Karen, exactly. And now they're playing the victims because they got caught. Cousin Jake, wow. Just wow. And they expected him to just sit there and take it. My parents never replied, but Megan did. Megan, oh my God, can everyone chill? It was just a vacation. He's being dramatic. I couldn't stop myself, I laughed. Me, oh, I'm being dramatic? So when you all treated me like an ATM and left me behind, I was supposed to just smile and keep paying for everything? Again, no response. Then, hours later, my mom finally cracked. She called, and against my better judgment I answered. Her voice was quieter now. Less shrill. Less angry. Was this really necessary? She asked softly. I let out a slow breath. Yes, I said simply. She sighed. Your father is upset. Oh, he's upset? I said, unable to hold back the bitterness. Imagine how I felt when I realized my own family didn't even think I was worth including. Silence. Mom, I'm done, I said firmly. I'm done being the one who always gives while getting nothing in return. I'm done being your safety net. We never wanted to hurt you, she said weakly. I closed my eyes. But you did. Another long silence. Then, finally, she spoke again. What do you want us to do? She asked. I had already thought about this. I don't want an apology you don't mean. I don't want fake excuses, I said. I just want space. Her breath hitched. You don't mean that. I do. This time, I hung up first. It's been a few months now. My parents tried a couple more times to reach out, but I stood my ground. Megan never apologized, no surprise there. But the biggest shift? The rest of my family saw them for who they really were. I'm not bitter. If anything, I feel lighter. Like I finally let go of something that had been weighing me down for years. And their house? Last I heard, they're still scrambling to replace everything. I hope they enjoy the empty space. It's exactly what they left me with.